Hey everyone, I'm Sarah, and I'm 32 years old. I've been married to my husband Jake for 8 years now, and we have 2 beautiful kids, Lily, who's 6, and our little boy Tommy, who just turned 4. Now let me tell you something about my life before I get into this absolutely wild story that changed everything between me and my mother-in-law. For the past 8 years, I've been the one holding this family together. I work full-time as a marketing coordinator at a small firm downtown, but somehow I'm also the one who does literally everything at home. I wake up at 5:30 a.m. to prep lunches, get the kids ready for school, drop them off, work a full 8-hour day, pick them up, help with homework, make dinner, do bath time, bedtime stories. You know the drill. Meanwhile, Jake comes home, plops down on the couch, and asks what's for dinner like he's a guest in his own house. But here's where it gets interesting, and trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this because what happened next is going to blow your minds. Jake's mother, Patricia, and yes, she insists everyone call her Patricia, never Pat or Patty, has always had opinions about me. From day one, this woman has made it clear that I'm not good enough for her precious son. But recently, her favorite target has been my cooking. It started small, you know? Little comments here and there. Oh, Jake looks a bit thin, doesn't he? Or, I hope you're feeding him enough protein, dear. I brushed it off at first because, honestly, I had bigger things to worry about than Patricia's passive-aggressive comments. But then it escalated every single time we visited, which was every Sunday for family dinner. By the way, because God forbid we skip one week, Patricia would make some comment about Jake's weight, my cooking, or both. She'd look at Jake with this concerned, motherly expression and say things like, "Sweetheart, are you eating enough at home? You look so skinny." Then she'd turn to me with this fake smile and add, "Maybe Sarah needs some cooking lessons. I have some wonderful recipes I could share." The worst part? Jake would just sit there. He wouldn't defend me, wouldn't tell his mother to back off. He'd actually chuckle sometimes, like it was all just harmless family banter. "Oh, you know how Mom is," he'd say later, when I'd try to talk to him about it. No, Jake, I didn't know how Mom was. What I knew was that I was busting my ass every single day to keep our family fed and healthy while working full-time, and his mother was treating me like I was some incompetent child who couldn't boil water. Let me paint you a picture of what my typical day looked like. I'd wake up before dawn to make breakfast for everyone. Not just cereal or toast. I'm talking scrambled eggs, turkey sausage, fresh fruit, the works. Then I'd pack Jake's lunch. And yes, I made his lunch every single day like he was one of you. The kids, with a sandwich, snacks, fruit, sometimes even a little note because I thought it was sweet. The kids got their lunches packed too, obviously. Then I'd get everyone dressed and out the door. After work, I'd pick up groceries if we needed them, get the kids, and come home to start dinner. Real dinner. Protein, vegetables, grains. I'd spend an hour cooking while simultaneously helping with homework and keeping an eye on both kids. We'd eat together as a family. I'd clean up, do the dishes, get the kids ready for bed, read stories, and finally collapse around 10 p.m. On weekends, I'd meal prep for the following week, do laundry, clean the house, and take the kids to their activities. Jake? He'd sleep in, watch sports, maybe play video games. His contribution to household management was taking out the trash, sometimes. But according to Patricia, I wasn't taking care of her son properly. The breaking point came 3 months ago. We'd gone to Patricia's house for her birthday dinner, and I'd actually brought a homemade dessert, a chocolate cake that took me 3 hours to make from scratch the night before. I was exhausted, but I wanted to contribute something special for her birthday. Jake had seconds of dinner, by the way. Seconds. The man practically licked his plate clean. He enjoyed his mother's pot roast so much. But when we were having cake, Patricia looked at him and said, loud enough for everyone at the table to hear, "Oh, Jake, honey, you're getting so thin. I'm worried about you. Are you sure you're eating enough at home? Jake laughed it off, but I felt my face burn with embarrassment. The way she said it was like she was genuinely concerned that I was starving her son. Maybe, Patricia continued, looking directly at me now. You need to learn how to make some heartier meals. I know cooking can be challenging when you're working so much. She said working like it was a dirty word, like the fact that I had a career was somehow neglecting my wifely duties. I forced a smile and said, Jake never complains about my cooking. Well, of course he wouldn't complain, Patricia laughed, patting Jake's hand. He's too polite. But a mother knows when her child isn't being properly fed. You guys, I wanted to throw that chocolate cake right in her face. But I didn't. I smiled, nodded, and changed the subject. Because that's what I always did. Keep the peace. Don't make waves, be the bigger person. But something inside me snapped that night. As we drove home, I was quiet, fuming. Jake finally asked what was wrong. Your mother basically accused me of starving you in front of your entire family, I said. Oh, come on, Sarah. She's just worried about me. You know how mothers are. No, Jake. I don't know how mothers are. Because my mother doesn't insult my husband in front of people. She doesn't question my ability to take care of my family. You're overreacting, he said. And those two words made me see red. Overreacting. I was overreacting to being publicly humiliated by his mother. I was overreacting to having my abilities as a wife questioned. I was overreacting to being treated like garbage while bending over backwards to keep everyone happy. That night, lying in bed, I made a decision. But I didn't tell Jake about it. Oh no, this was going to be my little secret until the perfect moment came. And believe me, that moment came sooner than I expected. The very next Sunday, we were getting ready for dinner at Patricia's house. Jake was in the shower, and I was getting the kids ready when he called out from the bathroom. Babe, what are you making for dinner this week? I was thinking maybe that chicken thing you do. That chicken thing I do. Like I was some short order cook whose entire purpose was to feed him. Actually, I called back. I've been thinking about what your mom said last week. What about it? She's right, Jake. You do look thin. And she's absolutely right that there's nothing like a mother's cooking. Jake poked his head out of the bathroom, confused. Okay, so I've decided that instead of me cooking this week, we're going to eat at your mom's house every night. That way you'll get proper nutrition from someone who actually knows how to cook. The look on his face was priceless. Pure confusion mixed with panic. What? Sarah, what are you talking about? I'm talking about accepting help when it's offered, I said sweetly, continuing to brush Lily's hair. Your mother clearly thinks I'm not capable of feeding you properly, and she's obviously a much better cook than I am. So problem solved. You. Can't be serious. Oh, I'm completely serious. In fact, I'm going to call her right now and let her know we'll be coming for dinner every night this week. Jake stepped out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, looking genuinely alarmed. Sarah, you can't just invite us to my mom's house every night. Why not? She's the one who said you need proper nutrition. She's the one who implied I don't know how to cook. I'm just taking her advice. I picked up my phone and started dialing. Jake actually reached for it, but I stepped away. Hi, Patricia. It's Sarah. Oh, I'm wonderful. Thank you for asking. Listen, I was thinking about what you said last week about Jake needing better nutrition. Yes, exactly. Well, you're absolutely right. And I've decided that this week we're going to take you up on your offer to help. What offer? Well, when you said Jake needs heartier meals and suggested I need cooking lessons, I figured the best way to learn is to watch an expert. Uh-huh. Tonight? Yes, we'll be there for dinner tonight. And tomorrow. Actually, every night this week. You guys, I wish you could have seen Jake's face. He looked like he was watching a car accident in slow motion. Patricia, bless her heart, couldn't exactly say no without looking like a complete hypocrite. After all, she'd spent months telling me my cooking wasn't good enough. How could she refuse to help her precious son get the nutrition he clearly wasn't getting at home? That's so generous of you, Patricia. Jake is going to be so happy to have his mother's cooking every night. Oh, and don't worry about the kids. They'll eat whatever you're making. No, I insist. If you're going to teach me to cook properly, I need to see how a family meal is really done. We'll be there at 6. I hung up and turned to Jake, who was staring at me like I'd lost my mind. You're insane, he said. No, honey. I'm just being a good student. Your mother offered to help, and I'm accepting that help. She didn't offer to cook for us every night. She offered to teach me how to cook properly because, according to her, I'm not feeding you enough. The best way to learn is hands-on experience, don't you think? Jake tried to argue, but what could he say? That his mother was wrong? That I was a good cook after all? That would mean admitting he'd been letting his mother insult me for months without defending me. So that night, we showed up at Patricia's house at 6 o'clock sharp, all 4 of us. The kids were excited because they loved their grandmother's house, but Patricia looked, well, let's just say she looked like someone who was beginning to realize she'd bitten off more than she could chew. Oh, she said when she opened the door. You're all here. Of course we're all here, I said brightly. It's family dinner time. I brought my notebook to write down all your cooking tips. I actually had brought a notebook, a bright pink one, with cooking lessons with Patricia, written on the cover in big letters. Dinner was interesting. Patricia had made pork chops with mashed potatoes and green beans. It was good, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't anything special. It was the kind of basic, hearty meal I made all the time. But I acted like it was the most amazing thing I'd ever tasted. Patricia, this is incredible, I gushed. How do you get the pork chops so tender? And these mashed potatoes? Jake, honey, feel how much weight you're gaining already. Jake looked mortified. Patricia looked confused. The kids just ate their dinner happily, oblivious to the psychological warfare happening around them. Now, I said, pulling out my notebook, what's your secret? How do you make such hearty, nutritious meals? I clearly have so much to learn. Patricia mumbled something about seasoning and cooking times, clearly uncomfortable with the praise that she couldn't quite tell, was sarcastic without sounding paranoid. After dinner, I insisted on helping with the dishes, but Patricia shooed me away. You're a guest, she said. Oh no, I'm a student, I corrected. How else will I learn to properly take care of Jake and the children? So I stayed in the kitchen taking notes on her dishwashing technique, asking questions about everything from her dish soap choice to her drying method. By the time we left, Patricia looked exhausted. Same time tomorrow? I asked cheerfully. Tomorrow? Patricia looked panicked. Well, yes. Jake needs consistent nutrition to put on weight, right? One good meal won't fix months of my inadequate cooking. Patricia nodded weakly and said she'd see us tomorrow. In the car, Jake was quiet for most of the ride home. Finally, he said, Okay, I get it. You've made your point. What point is that, honey? You know what point. No, really. I'm just trying to be a better wife. Your mother was right. I clearly don't know how to cook properly. So I'm learning from the best. Sarah, what? Are you saying your mother was wrong? Are you saying my cooking is actually fine? Silence. Because that's the thing about passive-aggressive people. They hate when their behavior gets reflected back at them. They can dish it out, but they can't take it. The next night, we showed up again. This time, Patricia had made spaghetti and meatballs. Again, nothing fancy, but I acted like it was a 5-star meal. Patricia, I don't know how you do it, I exclaimed. These meatballs are so much better than mine. What's your secret? It's just ground beef and breadcrumbs. Patricia said quietly. Just ground beef and breadcrumbs. But it tastes so much better than when I make it. There must be something special you do. I took extensive notes on her meatball technique, asked about her sauce recipe, and even requested the exact brand of pasta she used. I want to make sure Jake gets the same quality nutrition at home that he gets here, I explained. By the 3rd night, cracks were starting to show. Patricia looked tired when she answered the door, and I noticed she'd just made grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup. Oh, I said, disappointed. This is much simpler than the other meals. Well, I didn't have time to make anything elaborate today. Of course. I totally understand. It must be exhausting cooking for 6 people every night. Say, home, I only have to cook for 4. Patricia's eye twitched. But this is perfect, I continued. I need to see how you handle simple meals too. My grilled cheese never turns out right. I took notes on her butter to bread ratio, the type of cheese she used, even how long she let the sandwiches cook. Patricia looked like she wanted to cry. After dinner, as I was helping load the dishwasher, taking notes on her loading technique, of course, Patricia finally snapped. Sarah, this is ridiculous. What's ridiculous? This whole thing. You don't need to come here every night. I looked at her with wide, innocent eyes. But Patricia, you said Jake was too thin. You said he needed heartier meals. You said I didn't know how to cook properly. I'm just trying to learn. I wasn't trying to, she stammered. Weren't trying to what? And that's when it happened. Patricia looked at me for a long moment, and I could see the realization dawning in her eyes. She was finally understanding what she'd been doing to me all these years. I wasn't trying to insult you, she said quietly. Oh, I know you weren't trying to insult me, I said sweetly. You were just trying to help. Just like I'm trying to help now by learning from you. The silence stretched between us. Finally, Patricia said, Maybe we don't need to do this every night. Are you sure? Because Jake's health is so important. And you said, I know what I said. Patricia looked defeated. Maybe I was wrong. Wrong about what? About your cooking. Maybe it's fine. Just fine? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Patricia sighed. Maybe it's good. Maybe Jake is perfectly healthy and well-fed. Are you sure? Because we can keep coming. I don't mind. I love spending time with family. No, I think Jake is fine. You don't need to come every night. I smiled. If you're sure. But the offer stands. Anytime you think Jake needs better nutrition, just let me know. I'd hate for him to waste away because of my inadequate cooking. We went home that night and Jake was unusually quiet. The kids chattered about their day, but Jake just picked at his grilled cheese, which, let's be honest, was exactly the same as any grilled cheese I'd ever made. Everything okay, honey? I asked sweetly. Yeah, I'm just thinking. About what? About how maybe we don't need to go to my mom's every night anymore. Really? But she's such a good cook, and you do look thin. I don't look thin. Sarah, I look the same as I always have. Maybe you're right. Maybe your mother was mistaken. Jake looked at me, and I could see him trying to figure out how to navigate this conversation without admitting that his mother had been wrong, which would mean admitting that he should have defended me. Maybe, he said carefully. Mom was just worried. You know how she is. Right, just worried. Not criticizing my cooking or implying that I don't take care of my family properly. Right, but I wasn't done yet. Oh no, we were just getting started. The next day was Thursday, and I'd taken the day off work to catch up on some things around the house. I was doing laundry when my phone rang. It was Patricia. Sarah, dear, she said, and I could hear the forced sweetness in her voice. I was thinking about tonight's dinner. Oh yes, I'm so excited to see what you're making tonight. I've been practicing that meatball recipe you taught me, but I just can't seem to get it right. Well, actually, I was thinking maybe you and Jake might want to have dinner at home tonight, so you can practice cooking. Practice cooking? But Patricia, I thought we established that I don't know how to cook properly. How can I practice something I don't know how to do? That's like asking someone to practice brain surgery without going to medical school. Silence. Besides, I continued, Jake needs consistent nutrition. We can't have him eating my inadequate food one night and your excellent food the next. That's not healthy. Sarah, what if he loses weight? What if he gets sick? I'd never forgive myself. No, I think it's better if we stick to the plan. We'll be there at 6. But Sarah, I don't have anything planned for tonight. Oh, that's okay. I can bring something. How about I bring ingredients and you can teach me to cook something from scratch? That way I get hands-on experience and Jake gets a proper meal. It's perfect. I could practically hear Patricia's soul leaving her body. Or, I continued, we could just order pizza and have it delivered to your house. That way you don't have to cook, but we still get to spend time together as a family. Jake loves family time. Sarah, please. Please what? Maybe Jake's fine eating at home. Are you sure? Because yesterday you seemed pretty convinced that he needed better nutrition. Maybe I was hasty in my judgment. Hasty? Patricia, you've been concerned about Jake's nutrition for months. That's not hasty. That's ongoing medical concern. Are you saying you've been wrong this whole time? The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Maybe, she finally whispered. I've been interfering where I shouldn't have. And there it was. The admission I'd been waiting for. But I wasn't ready to let her off the hook just yet. We still had 3 more nights of the week to get through, and I was curious to see just how far this would go. Wait until you hear what happened next. Trust me, this is just the beginning and it gets so much better. Patricia had no idea what. She'd started, but she was about to find out exactly what it felt like to be on the receiving end of her own medicine. You guys are not going to believe how this escalated, because Thursday night, that's when things got really interesting. That's when Patricia realized she'd created a monster, and there was no putting the genie back in the bottle. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you about Thursday night, first, because that's when the real fun began. So Thursday evening rolled around, and despite Patricia's desperate phone call earlier, we showed up at her house right at 6 o'clock. I'd stopped by the grocery store and picked up ingredients for what I told her would be a learning experience. Everything needed to make beef stroganoff from scratch. When Patricia opened the door, she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her usually perfect hair was a little messy, and she was still in her house robe. "Oh," she said, clearly hoping we'd changed our minds. "You're here?" "Of course we're here," I said brightly, holding up my grocery bags. "I brought everything we need for tonight's cooking lesson. I thought you could teach me to make beef stroganoff. Jake loves stroganoff, don't you, honey?" Jake, who had been unusually quiet during the car ride, just nodded weakly. The kids pushed past their grandmother, excited to play in her living room, like they did every week. Patricia's kitchen, which was normally her pride and joy, looked like it had been through a tornado. Dishes from the past 3 nights were still scattered around, and I could see takeout containers in the trash can. Apparently she'd been ordering food for herself after cooking for us each night. "Patricia, are you feeling okay?" I asked with genuine concern. "You look tired." "I'm fine," she said quickly. "Just a little busy lately." "Well, that's why I thought we could cook together tonight. It'll be fun, and I'll learn so much. Plus, you won't have to do all the work yourself." I started unpacking the groceries, laying everything out on her counter. Beef, mushrooms, onions, sour cream, egg noodles, beef stock, the works. "Now," I said, pulling out my trusty pink notebook, "I want to see how you prepare the beef. My beef always comes out tough when I make stroganoff." Patricia stared at the ingredients like they were a foreign language. "Sarah, I don't actually make stroganoff very often." "Really? But it's such a hearty meal. Perfect for putting weight on thin husbands." I smiled sweetly. "Don't worry, we can figure it out together. I brought a recipe I found online, but I'm sure you'll have better techniques." What followed was the most awkward cooking experience of my life. Patricia, who had spent months positioning herself as the superior cook, clearly had no idea how to make beef stroganoff. She kept asking me questions about cooking times and seasoning, amounts. "How much salt do you think we should add?" she'd ask. "Oh, I don't know," I'd reply innocently. "You're the expert. What do you usually do?" Meanwhile, Jake sat at the kitchen table, watching this disaster unfold with growing horror. The kids were in the living room, thankfully oblivious to the psychological warfare happening in the kitchen. The stroganoff was not good. The beef was tough, the sauce was lumpy, and the whole thing was oversalted. But I acted like it was the most delicious thing I'd ever tasted. "Patricia, this is amazing," I gushed. "How did you get the sauce so unique?" "Unique?" she asked weakly. "It's got such an interesting texture, very rustic. And the salt level, so bold. I never would have thought to season it so heavily." Jake took one bite and barely managed to swallow it. Even the kids, who usually ate anything put in front of them, were pushing the food around their plates. "Are you not hungry, sweetie?" I asked Jake. "You've barely touched your food." It's very salty," he said carefully. "Salty? But your mother made it. You love your mother's cooking." I turned to Patricia. "Maybe Jake's taste buds have been corrupted by my bland cooking. You might need to adjust your seasoning to account for that." Patricia looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. After dinner, as I was enthusiastically taking notes on Patricia's unique approach to sauce consistency, she finally cracked. "Sarah, can we talk? Privately?" "Of course." I followed her into the living room, where she closed the door behind us. "This has to stop," she said. "What has to stop?" "This, whatever this is. This isn't normal." I tilted my head, confused. "I'm not sure I understand. I'm just trying to learn from you. You said I needed to learn how to cook better." "I didn't mean. I never meant for you to come here every night." "But Patricia, if Jake's health is at stake, what's more important? A little inconvenience, or making sure your son is properly fed?" She stared at me, and I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was starting to realize that every argument she made against this arrangement was an argument against her own months of criticism. "Maybe," she said slowly. "Jake doesn't need to come here every night. Are you sure? Because yesterday you seemed so concerned about his weight." "Maybe I was wrong about his weight." "Wrong? But you've been worried about it for months. Are you saying you've been wrong this whole time?" Patricia's face crumpled. "Yes," she whispered. "I've been wrong." "Wrong about what, specifically?" I pressed gently. "Wrong about Jake needing more food. Wrong about your cooking. Wrong about interfering." And there it was, the full admission. But something in her voice made me pause. She wasn't just frustrated anymore. She was genuinely upset. And despite everything she'd put me through, I felt a twinge of sympathy. "Patricia," I said softly, "why did you really say those things about my cooking?" She was quiet for a long moment. Then, to my surprise, her eyes filled with tears. "Because I felt useless," she said. "What?" "Jake doesn't need me anymore. He has you and the kids and his own life. And I used to be the center of his world. I used to be the one who took care of him." Oh. Suddenly everything clicked into place. This wasn't really about my cooking at all. This was about a lonely woman who missed feeling needed by her son. "Patricia," I said gently, "Jake loves you. You know that, right?" "Does he? He hardly calls anymore. When you all come for Sunday dinner, he spends most of the time on his phone. He used to tell me everything, and now—" She trailed off. I sat down next to her on the couch. "That's not because he doesn't love you. That's just what happens when people grow up and have their own families." "I know," she said miserably. "I know that. But when I'd criticize your cooking, he'd defend you, or he'd roll his eyes, or he'd engage with me somehow. It was the only time he seemed to really pay attention to me." My heart broke a little. Here I'd been thinking she was just a mean mother-in-law, when really she was a lonely woman who didn't know how to connect with her adult son. "Patricia," I said, "there are better ways to get Jake's attention than insulting his wife." She laughed bitterly. "Clearly, Look where it got me. We sat in silence for a moment. Then I made a decision that surprised even me. You know what? You're right. This does need to stop. Patricia looked up at me, hope in her eyes. But sa encuentran, I continued. We need to talk about some things first. She nodded eagerly. I need you to understand how much your comments hurt me. For months, you made me feel like I was failing as a wife and mother. Every Sunday, I dread coming here because I knew you'd find some way to criticize me. I'm sorry, she said, and I could tell she meant it. I really am. I didn't realize. I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I didn't think about how it felt from your side. And Jake, I continued, he should have stood up for me. He should have told you to stop instead of just brushing it off. Patricia nodded. You're right. He should have. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to go back in there, and you're going to apologize to me in front of Jake and the kids. A real apology, where you admit that your comments were inappropriate and hurtful. Patricia's eyes widened, but she nodded. And then, I continued, we're going to have a conversation about better ways for you to connect with Jake, because insulting his wife is not the answer. Okay, she whispered. And Patricia? My cooking is fine. Jake is healthy and well-fed. If you ever imply otherwise again, we'll be right back to eating here every night. Are we clear? Crystal clear. We went back to the kitchen where Jake was attempting to get the kids to eat the disastrous stroganoff. They were all pushing food around their plates with expressions of polite suffering. Jake, Patricia said, her voice shaking slightly. Can I talk to everyone for a minute? Jake looked up, confused. Sure, Mom. Patricia took a deep breath. I owe Sarah an apology, a big one. Jake's eyebrows shot up. The kids stopped pretending to eat and looked interested. For months, I've been making inappropriate comments about Sarah's cooking and implying that she doesn't take good care of you and the children. That was wrong of me, and I'm truly sorry. The kitchen was dead silent, except for the sound of the dishwasher running. Sarah is an excellent cook, and more importantly, she's an excellent wife and mother. She works full-time and still manages to keep your family fed, clothed, and happy. Instead of criticizing her, I should have been thanking her for taking such good care of my son and grandchildren. Jake's mouth was hanging open. In 8 years of marriage, I don't think he'd ever heard his mother apologize for anything. I was jealous, Patricia continued, and lonely, and I was taking it out on Sarah. That's not fair, and it's not acceptable. Sarah, I'm deeply sorry for the way I've treated you. I felt tears prick my eyes. Thank you, Patricia. That means 80. Lot. Jake finally found his voice. Mom, I had no idea you felt that way. That's not Sarah's fault, Patricia said firmly. That's mine. I should have talked to you about feeling left out instead of attacking your wife. And Jake, I said, because we were having all the hard conversations tonight, you should have defended me instead of brushing off your mother's comments. Jake had the grace to look ashamed. You're right. I'm sorry, Sarah. I should have spoken up. I don't want to hear that's just how Mom is ever again, I said. If someone is disrespecting your wife, it's your job to shut it down, even if it's your mother. Especially if it's his mother, Patricia added, surprising everyone. Jake, your wife and children are your priority now. I raised you to be a good husband, so be one. Jake nodded, looking properly chastened. I will, I promise. Little Lily, who had been following this adult conversation with 6-year-old intensity, suddenly piped up, Does this mean we don't have to eat the yucky pasta anymore? Everyone burst out laughing, breaking the tension. Even Patricia laughed, though she looked a little embarrassed. No, sweetheart, I said. We're going home, and I'll make you guys some mac and cheese. Real mac and cheese? Tommy asked hopefully. With the good cheese, I confirmed, and both kids cheered. As we were getting ready to leave, Patricia pulled me aside one more time. Sarah, I meant what I said, about the apology. I know you did, and I hope we can start over. Maybe find better ways to spend time together that don't involve me insulting you, I smiled. I'd like that. Maybe next Sunday, instead of you cooking for everyone, we could cook together. Like actually together, not as a lesson, but as family. Patricia's face lit up. I'd love that. And Patricia? If you're feeling lonely or left out, just tell us. Don't turn it into attacks on me or Jake. We're all family here. She nodded, tears in her eyes again. Thank you for being patient with a foolish old woman. You're not foolish. You're just human. In the car on the way home, Jake was unusually quiet again. Finally, he said, I owe you an apology too. Yes, you do. I'm sorry I didn't defend you. I'm sorry I let my mom make you feel bad about yourself. And I'm really sorry I called you overreacting. Thank you. Also, he continued, I need to tell you something. What's that? Your cooking is amazing, like really amazing. I look forward to your meals every day. And I'm not thin. I'm exactly the weight I should be. My mom was completely wrong about everything. I felt a warm glow in my chest. I know my cooking is good, Jake, but it's nice to hear you say it. I should have said it months ago. Yes, you should have. We drove in comfortable silence for a while. Then Jake said, So are we really going to cook with my mom on Sundays? We're going to try. I think she's genuinely sorry, and I think she really is just lonely. That's very generous of you. Well, she's going to be in our lives for a long time. We might as well find a way to get along. What if she goes back to her old ways? I grinned. Then we go back to eating at her house every night until she learns her lesson. Jake shuddered. That stroganoff was really bad. The worst I've ever had, I agreed. But did you see her face when I kept complimenting it? You're diabolical. I prefer strategically creative. When we got home, I made the kids mac and cheese, as promised, and Jake actually helped me in the kitchen without being asked. As we worked together, I realized something important had shifted in our relationship too. Jake, I said as he stirred the cheese sauce, I need you to understand something. What's that? I shouldn't have had to go to those extremes to get your mother to respect me. You should have handled this months ago. He stopped stirring and looked at me. You're right. I work just as hard as you do. I contribute just as much to this family. And I deserve to be treated with respect by your family members. I know. And I promise, from now on, if anyone, and I mean anyone, disrespects you, I'll shut it down immediately. Good. Because I won't go through this again. Next time, I might not be so creative with my revenge. Jake laughed nervously. What would you do next time? I smiled mysteriously. Trust me, you don't want to find out. The next few weeks were different. Sunday dinners at Patricia's house became collaborative cooking sessions where we'd all work together to make a meal. Patricia seemed genuinely happier, and she made a real effort to get to know me as a person, rather than just as Jake's wife. She started asking about my work, my hobbies, my opinions on things. We discovered we both loved mystery novels and had surprisingly similar taste in movies. She even started texting me during the week, not to criticize anything, but just to chat or share funny articles she'd found. Jake, meanwhile, became much more attentive at home. He started helping with dinner prep without being asked, took over bedtime duty twice a week, and actually defended me when his uncle made a comment about working wives at a family barbecue. But the real test came about a month later when we were at Patricia's house for our usual Sunday cooking session. We were making chicken parmesan together when Patricia's sister Helen stopped by unexpectedly. Helen was even worse than Patricia used to be. She had opinions about everything and wasn't shy about sharing them. Within 5 minutes of arriving, she'd criticized my outfit, questioned why I was letting the kids play video games, and made a snide comment about how thin Jake looked. Patricia, Helen said loudly, are you sure Sarah is feeding Jake enough? He looks positively gaunt. I felt my blood pressure spike, but before I could say anything, Patricia stepped in. Helen, she said firmly, Sarah is an excellent cook, and Jake is perfectly healthy. I won't have you insulting my daughter-in-law in my house." Helen looked shocked. "I was just saying you were being rude," Patricia cut her off. "Sarah works hard to take care of her family, and she does a wonderful job. If you can't be respectful, you're welcome to leave." I could have cried. Patricia, who had spent months doing exactly what Helen was doing now, was defending me. Helen left in a huff, but not before making some comment about Patricia choosing sides. After she was gone, Patricia turned to me with an apologetic expression. "I'm sorry about my sister. She's always been—" Patricia trailed off. "Like you used to be?" I asked gently. Patricia winced. "Yes, like I used to be. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I can't believe I ever made you feel the way Helen just tried to make you feel." "You learned," I said simply. "Maybe she will, too." "Maybe. But she won't get the chance to practice on you." Jake, who had witnessed the whole exchange, wrapped his arms around both of us. "I'm proud of you, Mom, and I'm proud of my wife for helping you figure this out." "Your wife," Patricia said, smiling at me, "is a very patient woman, and a very smart one. Don't forget creative," I added. "Oh, I'll never forget creative," Patricia laughed. That week of cooking lessons was the most stressful week of my life. "It was supposed to be," I said cheerfully, "and it worked perfectly." A few months later, Patricia actually asked me for cooking advice. She wanted to make a special dinner for her book club and asked if I had any recipes that would impress her friends. "I thought you were the expert cook in this family," I teased. "Oh, please," Patricia laughed. "We both know that was never true. You're an amazing cook, Sarah. I was just too proud and too stupid to admit it." I shared my favorite recipes with her, and her book club dinner was a huge success. She called me the next day to thank me and to tell me how much her friends had complimented the food. "I told them all about what a wonderful cook my daughter-in-law is," she said. "I may have bragged a little." "Just a little? Okay, a lot. But you deserve it." Looking back now, I realize that those 4 days of cooking lessons changed everything. Not just my relationship with Patricia, but my relationship with Jake, and even my own confidence. I learned that I didn't have to accept disrespect, even from family members. I learned that sometimes you have to get creative to make your point. And I learned that standing up for yourself doesn't always mean being confrontational. Sometimes it means being so sweetly, persistently reasonable that the other person has no choice but to confront their own behavior. Most importantly, I learned that I'm a damn good cook, a damn good wife, and a damn good mother. And if anyone ever suggests otherwise, again, well, I've got plenty more creative ideas where that one came from. Jake still jokes that he gained 5 pounds that week from all the rich food at his mother's house. But he also says it was worth it to see his wife and his mother finally become friends. And Patricia, she still cooks for us sometimes, but now it's because she wants to, not because she thinks she has to show me up. And when she does cook, she actually asks for my advice on seasoning. The kids love their grandmother more than ever because she's not stressed and snippy during our visits anymore. Instead, she's engaged and interested in their lives, asking about school and friends rather than focusing on criticizing their mother. As for me, I still bring my pink notebook to Patricia's house sometimes just to make her laugh. And whenever she starts to get a little too opinionated about something, all Jake has to do is say, "Should Sarah bring her notebook?" And Patricia immediately backs down with a laugh. It's become our family joke. The week that Sarah taught Patricia a lesson about humility and respect. And honestly, it's one of my favorite family stories now, because sometimes the best way to deal with a bully, even a family bully, is to give them exactly what they think they want, until they realize they never actually wanted it at all. And that, my friends, is how I turned my biggest family problem into one of my greatest victories. Sometimes you just have to get a little creative with your revenge. The moral of the story: Be careful what you criticize because someone might just take your advice. Literally.